If you are just joining us, welcome, welcome. Some of you might know me. My name's Greg. Joining me here is Andy, and we are going to be your host for the next hour here. We're excited to speak with you about split testing, your Amazon listings, optimization. We're going to give you some hacks from data that we've collected, that what we've figured out is working well to improve sales on Amazon. So we're going to have a lot of fun. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And I prepared a few slides so we kind of go over split testing, get the general gist of it. Then we'll go into some real world examples, what we've seen working. And then after that, be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. So if you do have questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. Andy and myself will be monitoring the chat. If it's something quick, maybe one of us will just post the answer in there. If it's more complex, we'll be more than happy to answer it live on the webinar. So, all right, that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So, all right, and I assume you can see my screen. Is that right, Andy?
Yes, it all looks good.
All right, perfect. All right. So what is split testing? What are we talking about today? Split testing, for those of you who come from internet marketing background or an e-commerce background or so forth, you may be familiar with it, but essentially we just want to do a controlled experiment testing 2 or more different variations to see what improves better. So kind of like typical e-commerce type split tests, what some of you might be familiar with are things just like button colors or call to actions or so forth. With Amazon specifically, though, we can only test certain things. So how it works is we're going to show a different listing to different Amazon customers depending on what day it is. All right. So let's take, for example, that I want to test something like the price or the photo. So today, I want to set up my, let's say, marshmallow sticks with my photo that shows the jungle sticks in the shape of an X. And then tomorrow, maybe I show them instead in the packaging or a bundle. Okay. So I'd show the one listing today, the next listing tomorrow, back to my first listing the next day, and so forth. All right. And what we want to do is we want to continue to do this while collecting sessions data, conversion data, unit sales data, profit, and so forth until we have a statistically significant number, which tells us, that this is accurate. This actually makes sense, and it wasn't just kind of like a fluke. All right. And I can't really stress enough the fact that we're changing our listings every 24 hours. And not just, hey, I'm going to change it once today. I want to see what the sales are like for the next 2 weeks and see whether that works or not. Because we've definitely found from the data that it's nearly impossible to know whether the change you made is affecting your sales if you just do that. Because sales on Amazon change so much on a weekly basis, on a seasonal basis, depending if there's holidays in there or so forth, that if you're not changing it every 24 hours, if you're just changing it like once a week or once a month, it's so hard to know. It's really impossible to know whether that change actually is what caused the improvement or not. So let's talk real quick. So, with typical type split testing, you can send one visitor to, one page or one variation, then the next visitor to the next one. With Amazon, it's a little bit different because we have to play by their rules. So with Amazon, we can't alternate pages every other visitor. And we kind of have to play, according to their guidelines. So we have certain character limits. We have certain formatting. We can only have so many pictures, and the pictures have to look like this and so forth. And they only give us limited data. So we can't get the data of, how many sessions or how many conversions we had for this particular hour compared to the next one. Instead, we're collecting our data for a 24-hour basis and then making our decisions based off that. So Um, Over the course of the past few months, Andy, myself, and James and others, we've tested a whole bunch of products of our own, our friends, our family members, as well as some other people who have given us permission to help them with their test or share their data with us. And from this, we've learned that two types of tests are the highest impact or the lowest hanging fruit. So this is what I kind of want to talk about these a little bit today, because these are like easy wins. These are things that everyone on Amazon should be testing, because without it, you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table. All right. So the first high impact test, or the lowest hanging fruit type test, is the change in price. All right. And I'm talking both about large changes like adding a few dollars or subtracting a few dollars. And don't forget that you can also make small changes, like instead of having your price $9.99, you can change it to $9.97 or $9.88 or so forth. Even these little changes will make a difference on how many clicks or conversions or so forth you get. So what type of price test do I recommend? All right. If you're in a highly competitive type niche, a very mature niche with lots of competitors that have similar products, what we recommend is to try small incremental changes. If you're in a lower competitive niche, maybe you only have a few competitors, or your product's a little bit different or so forth, then I would try increasing your price by $1 or $2 or $3. Because what we found is a lot of times these tests, or these customers might not be as cost sensitive as what you think, or price sensitive to what you think. So, if there are just a ton of lookalike products, a lot of times they're willing to pay an extra, or they don't care about an extra dollar or two. They're more concerned with the quality of the pictures and the sales copy or the number of reviews or so forth. So a lot of times you can increase your price by $1 or $2 or $3 and make the same number of sales, but of course, then you're making more profit. And if you have a differentiated or improved product, or your product has a, average of say like 4.5 stars, where all your competitors have 3.5 or 4 stars, then we found that these customers are willing to, without a doubt, pay more money to get the product that has a higher review score. So if this is the case, if you have an improved product that's getting better reviews, increase the price by more than you think. A lot of times you can increase the price by say $5, and you'll have the same amount of sales and the same amount of conversion. So that's something you definitely would want to be testing. So let's think a little bit about an example here, okay? You can look at your competitors. You can look at what type of pricing they have. You can come up with a hypothesis, and then you can test it. And again, by testing this, I'm not talking about changing the price once today, seeing what your sales are like the next week or 2 weeks or 1 month, and then from that, trying to guess whether it was the price that made that difference, or was it because of the seasonality, or your competitor running out of stock, or this or that or the other thing. Those aren't accurate tests. Changing it every like 24 hours, those are accurate tests. So the first thing we talked about was changing the price. This is extremely easy to do, and we've seen will drive like the highest results or the highest increase of profit. The second really easy thing to change, that again is super high impact, it's low hanging fruit, is changing your main feature image. All right. And the idea behind this is to get more clicks and more sessions onto your product. So we've lately been testing tons of different images for all different types of products. And there's a few tests that have really stood out that was like, wow, that makes a huge difference. So I kind of want to give some examples of these, so you guys can, your brain start thinking of, okay, like what other types of images could I use for my product? This is the first one that we've seen work really well. And this is especially true if your product, say, has a whole bunch of parts or pieces in it, or if it's a bundle item or so forth, is make it appear like there's a lot included with your item. All right. For this bocce ball set, I think there were 8 balls included in this anyway. But, by putting some of the balls out next to the case and other ones, still inside it, this gives the impression that there's a lot more included with your set than maybe some of your competitors if they're just showing a closed bag. All right. For these types of products or image tests, we've seen that these will get a lot more clicks, and therefore a lot more chances of making sales. This would be another example of the same thing. All right. And this is a real world example. This one on the left, this is the same GoPro set. Okay. The one on the left, the main image is just showing the case. Okay. And yeah, it has these tiny little pictures all over it of all the things included. But when this is only, like 1 inch tall, 1 inch wide on Amazon, you can't tell that stuff's included. Now, when we compare that to the image on the right, this image is like, wow, there's a lot included with this. And this one on the right will get tons more clicks on Amazon compared to the one on the left. So if you have something with lots of pieces, or it's a bundle type item, this is really a no-brainer test that you need to be running, is to go for the one that has a whole bunch of pieces, everything spread out, and make it look like there's a lot going on. All right, here's another type image test that is a really good one to use. All right. And again, this is the same product. It's a sweatband or a headband that goes on a person. So this image on the top, as you can see here, these are just, you can't even tell if these are headbands or sweatbands, right? It just looks like black blocks to me. I would never guess this is a headband. To me, this doesn't look, like nice and attractive and high quality and so forth. Compare that to the bottom image where they put a headband on a mannequin. All right. This one looks like a really nice image. To me, this headband looks like high quality, so forth. And it just kind of brings your product to life right away. Looking at that, it's like, okay, I know exactly what that is. It's a headband. I'm not confused if this is just a black blob or whatever. So again, if you have a product like this, try thinking about kind of bringing the product to life, or setting up in such a way so that consumers can really visualize that product on them. That being said, keep in mind, we do have to follow Amazon's guidelines when doing these images. So according to their guidelines, and I'm talking about specifically the main image because they have different guidelines for this one. It needs to be on a completely white background. All right. According to their rules, you're not allowed to have like watermarks or little badges or logos or so forth, kind of like put on top of the image. And then they specifically say that minimal propping is okay, as long as it like does not confuse the customer. All right. So I think this is a great example of minimal propping that does not confuse the customer. If I was the customer, I wouldn't think, okay, I think the mannequin's included with this headband. No, it just brings the product to life, gives you an idea of what you're actually getting. So what you don't want to put there is, say, like a carrying case that looks like the headband should go in, but that isn't really included with the product. So if it's an accessory or so forth that is not included with the product, but would make the customer to believe it is, that would be something, or an example of something that's against Amazon's terms of service. So I would kind of recommend against that. This was one of my favorite tests that we've seen, and this is really cool. So this is based off a real life test or example that we've run. It wasn't any of these exact products, but you can kind of get the idea here. And what it is you're really like uniquely showing your image and really making it stand out against your competitors. So just keep in mind here, if all your competitors are selling David sunflower seeds here, and you show a bag that has like some seeds spilled out and spells out the word sunflower, or maybe some seeds are spilled out and they're in the shape of a sunflower, right away that image is going to jump off the page a lot more than what these other images are that just shows the packaging, right? These are boring. Same thing like with Legos. The one on the right here, it kind of started to do that. But yeah, like imagine if you spelled out with the Legos like fun, or kind of spelled out like one of your differentiating factors or so forth. Or same thing with the the nuts over here, you could do something similar. So this is, again, just trying to get your mind kind of thinking like, how can I differentiate my product from my competitors? What are some things that are working well, and so forth. Another thing you can do with your image test is just show a interesting product photo or a product photo from an interesting angle or something, again, that just looks different from your competitors. So this is one of my actual products. I sell bamboo marshmallow sticks, and some of my competitors just have their marshmallow sticks shown in normal packaging. And if we compare that to my main image here, this is an image, interesting angle, or a, something that kind of just draws your eye to it and takes up more space than just the narrow marshmallow stick here, and it's something that gets more clicks. So again, if you have a product that is maybe a little strange, or can be photographed in an interesting way, these are kind of some ideas that you need to be thinking about. Okay, how can I make mine a little bit different so that I'm getting more clicks? So, Andy, you want to jump in right here? You can probably actually describe statistical significance better than I can. I know this is one of your specialties. You did a lot of the code here, and maybe you can also just tell us why it's so important, to only test one item at a time and rotate and so forth.
Yeah, okay. So statistical significance is a measure of how confident you can be that the winner of the test is actually the winner. Because nothing's 100% sure. We're just adding up as much data as we have, and we're saying, okay, given how much this variant is better than this one, and how much data we have to support that, well, we can be, let's say, 90% sure that this is the winner. And so you want to have this as high as possible, but the higher you want your statistical significance, the longer it's going to take to get there. So you have to basically choose a happy medium between how long you want to run your test and how confident you want to be in the winner. So we usually recommend around 90% as being, that might let your test run for 2 weeks to a month. So it's like a reasonable time frame, and it's also, we're pretty sure that this is the winner, and we can go ahead and end the test and then start another one. So the other point there, only test one thing at a time. Yeah, so this is very important, and I've seen with some people's tests that they're not doing this. The issue is, if you try to do two things at the same time and you find a winning variant that has two different things than the original, then you're not going to know which one of those things was actually the beneficial one. It could be that they're both beneficial, or it could be that one was good and the other one was actually bad. You don't know. And the only way to find out then would be to do another test afterwards, testing one of them and then testing the other one. So ideally, you don't want to do that. Another thing people would do in that situation is they would set up more than one variant. So they'd have one variant with one thing that's different and another variant with some other change. This is called a multivariate test. Yes, you can do this, but then all that's going to happen is that you're going to have to run that test for much longer, because each of those variants has to get enough data. So you're really better off in having only two variants, focusing in on one thing, and then when you're finished with that test, start another test with whatever else you want to try. Certainly to start off with, we recommend to start off with price test. And the main reason for that is it's very easy to set up a price test. You don't have to put a lot of thought into this. You just pick 2 price points around what you think are reasonable, and off you go. It's very simple. And also, because price is so sensitive on conversion rates, and what you'll be testing for is profit, you'll get to see the results of your test very quickly. So it's quite encouraging as well. Then afterward, again, main image, just because it's so important. You can also test your title, but the only issue with that is, of course, is sometimes people find it difficult to actually update their title. But if you have no problem with updating your title, that's a good one to test as well. And the third point here is switch variations every day at midnight. Yeah, so if you're doing this manually, you're going to need to go into Seller Central every 12 a.m. at midnight Amazon time, because Amazon time is PST, Pacific Standard Time. So that's when the session data is refreshed. And so you have to go into your Seller Central, change your listing to your new variant, and keep a track of which variant ran on which day, so that when you're ready to gather all your results, you can go back into Seller Central, go to your business reports, which is detailed sales and traffic by ASIN, and you can set your date range there to correspond to the day that you changed your variant at, and you can gather your data. And you have to keep going through this process, and you will end up adding up all the data for each variant, and you add them all up, and then you can run them through this. I believe, Greg, you have a statistical calculator for them.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can use that tool then to help you to calculate the actual the significance to allow you to know, is this a good time to end the test, and where we're at.
Perfect. So yeah, just to stress these things again, you know, whether you're using Splitly or just doing it yourself, it's really important to only test one thing at a time. You know, not to change 3 things with, you know, this test and 3 things with the other variant or whatever, because that will just confuse you. You don't know what's improving and what's not. We definitely recommend starting with the easier tests, which are price and image. And then if you do this manually, you have to switch it every night at midnight to get accurate information. And you need to definitely keep a good log of it as well if you want to be able to figure out the statistics, you know, the real winner, the statistical significance, etc. So if you do decide to do it yourself, great. If you want a more automated, easier way to do it, we have created a tool to do so called Splitly. So Splitly is a A/B testing tool specifically for Amazon sellers, and included in it is all the information we need to make educated decisions on whether or not certain variations and so forth are improving our sessions, our sales, our profit, or so forth. So that's a screenshot kind of on the inside of the dashboard. And then we will actually go ahead and just pull up a real life example as well. So this is inside of Splitly. So, and from here, I've been running a few tests with Jungle Sticks. I also just have one kind of example test to show you guys. So I'm running actually an image change test right now. It's been running for, it looks like, so down here is the tabulated version of our sessions and page views, sales, conversions, and profit. So it looks like this has been running since June 16th. So it's about 12 days or so. So from this, we are starting to get some good data, but it's not quite what we need yet. So we recommend running tests for a minimum of 2 weeks if you have if you're using a total of 2 variations. And the reasons for that is so each variation runs on each day of the week. So my original image plus my new image will both get to run on a Monday. Both these images will get to run on a Tuesday, etc. So this one needs a couple more days worth of data before we can start to analyze it and get our statistical significance score. But as you can see, we're starting to get some pretty good information here. You know, it looks like my new image might convert at a few percentage points higher, which therefore would mean I would make, let's see, 254 compared to 297. So like $53 more in profit every day, which that's pretty significant. You know, an extra $50 in profit every day is $1,500 a month, which is pretty serious. So yeah, this one's running right now. We'll kind of check back on this one in a few days. So we can also look at, this was a price test for, this was actually a different product we ran, but this gives you an idea of kind of how impactful some of these tests can be. So this, the original variant was 1988. The different price we tested was 2188. And as you can see, this made a huge difference in the daily profit. So amazingly enough, and this always kind of shocks me, the conversion rate actually for this particular product increased by about 1.2% after increasing the price a little bit, which seems crazy, but this is the type of thing that now we're starting to see. This isn't, by no means isn't always the case, but sometimes it will shock you. Um, you know, some of this information of, you would never have guessed that increasing the price will actually increase your conversions a little bit. But, it all goes back to like the psychology of the buyer. So it's really interesting. And again, kind of increase my daily sales, which is really neat. And do you want to kind of talk to us about the summary of what we're looking at right here?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so this is a very detailed breakdown of exactly what's going on, and most people won't be checking this so much because the charts give a quicker overview of what's happening, but you can just see your total, everything's added up here, summed up. So total page views. This again, if you go into your Seller Central and your business reports, you can see you have sessions, page views, total orders, and units ordered. So that's the 4 pieces of data that we gather up to calculate it. So then we add up all the data, and then we average it out over the number of days that each of the variants ran, and it's that, just by that we can see how much each they are performing against each other.
Excellent. And then down here, we just have a rotation log of each day with each different variant. So, this day is 1988. And if we look at something here, this is what I really want to emphasize, that why it's so important that you can't just change something, like watch it for 2 weeks to see how it performs, then change it again, because sales on Amazon jump all over the place, right? So just to give you an example here, there'll be some days, there'll be outliers that, even though the one variant overall performed better, there'll be outliers that, that particular day it performed worse. So again, sales are just so volatile on Amazon. It's always jumping around depending on seasonality, all kinds of different factors. Even if the kids were out of school that day or whatever else, all these factors can have an impact on your listing. So, yeah, so that's kind of Splitly in a nutshell. It does some other cool things. It shows you different reports here on your sales, on your conversion rate, all these really nice graphs to look at. But the real heart and soul of it is the split testing. And it's just so nice that, it does all of the rotations for you, gives you all this information you need. And it's amazing how, kind of a simple tool like this can have such a big impact on your bottom line. So we'll kind of hop back in here. I think we have a few little slides. We kind of talked about this, the test summary, which is really nice. And this right here just kind of emphasizes again how some small little changes, like increasing your conversions by a few percentage points, or increasing the number of sessions you get by 10 or 100 a day or so forth, can have a huge impact on your bottom line. This one would be for a particular test that we ran with the jungle sticks. So yeah, do we have some questions that you want to answer in the chat box at this point, Andy?
Yeah, I saw quite a few there. There's some people were saying they're finding it hard to see the video. Is that right?
Yeah, so if that's the case, I apologize for that. I'm going to drop a link in the chat box right now of the YouTube. On YouTube, the feed's delayed by a few seconds, and they're able to compress the video a little bit. So sometimes it is easier to see there. And yeah, you can always watch the replay there as well. And from there, you can select, 1080p or what have you, so you can see the text a little better.
Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, Remy is asking, are you conducting your split tests on exact same weekdays? So exactly that. We alternate each day. So because there's an odd number of days in the week, it just works out quite nicely that if you just run one after the other, they'll automatically switch over to the opposite days on the following week. So that's how we get over. If you have particularly, you for some reason you sell really well on Sundays, at least we'll factor that in by doing it that way.
Andy, here's another question. Scott asks, would you need thousands of sessions per day to get daily changes information? So, and I'll kind of add on to that. What would you say, what kind of traffic or how many sales do people need to be making before it's worth starting to split test? If I'm only making one sale a week, should I be split testing or what?
No, is the answer to that. One sale a week is not enough. We do a check. We just check when you sync your products. We look to see if you've had any sales in the last week on any listing, and any ones that don't have any sales in the last week, we just say it's not worth testing that particular product. But in general, you'd want at least, I would say, a few sales a day. If you have a lot of days where you have no sales, it's not good. You can still run your test. There's no reason not to, except that it's going to take a long time to get the results for that. And you're probably better off working on something else to get your sales up before starting to look at split testing at that point. You don't need thousands of sessions though. It's great if you have that, of course. The more data, the better, but you don't need that many to get a response.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt asked if we're comparing the variation to the original product, and I'll be happy to answer that. The short answer is yes. That'd be the easiest thing to do. So right now with my image test, I'm comparing my normal image that I already had up on Jungle Sticks with a brand new image. Yeah, that you could set up a test would be two brand new images, but kind of the whole point is let's see if this improves my listing and my sales or makes it worse. So the best thing to do is just your original would be the exact listing you have right now, and then the variation would be the change you want to make to your listing.
Yeah, and just to point out that when we say the word variation, we actually use the word variant in Splitly because, of course, on Amazon you have product variations. And these are not the same thing. A product variation is treated as a completely separate product by Amazon's system. It's just linked together to the other products. So for each one of those, it has its own separate test.
Good point. I'm glad you clarified that. Maddie has a good question for you, Andy. Do you have to change the price at midnight, or could you change it at any time of the day if it's consistent?
Okay, so the reason why it has to be at midnight is because of the data that Amazon gives. Again, you look at Seller Central business reports, all that data is given on a daily basis. And it would be great if they gave us the data on every few hours. It would be great because then we could change the listings every few hours, and we could then get a better split test going. But we're limited by Amazon's system to doing it daily.
Yeah. So. And just to add on to that, Maddie, imagine if we changed it every day at 5 p.m., the reports that we're giving are from midnight to midnight. So we wouldn't really know, if the split test improved it or not. So it really needs to be at midnight Amazon time so that it corresponds with the data that they give us.
Yeah, here's a good question from Leonard. Would you need to keep your PPC budget consistent throughout the split test? Yeah, it's a very common question. Essentially, you can do whatever you want during a split test, as long as the effects whatever you do, the effect is spread out over the variance. So in terms of PPC, it's absolutely fine because it's just something that's happening continuously on a daily basis. So that's no problem. The only issue would be if you decided, I'm going to do a blast and I'm going to give away 100 products on Friday, and you give out a coupon code. Well, that's obviously going to skew that particular day in the data. And you can still do this. And the remedy is you can go into where Greg was showing you have the table showing each day's data, and there's a little void link. And you can just click that link and it'll remove that day from the test results. So you can still do your blasts or whatever else that might corrupt the data, and then you can just clear it up afterwards.
Excellent. Todd has a good question here. Andy, I'll let you answer this. What if you do have different a product that has a parent product and multiple variations? If you want to do a price test, how would you handle that?
Okay, yeah. So we are working on a better solution for this, and it's a bit tricky, but I'm busy doing the code at the moment. But at the moment, the only solution is what you want to do is you want to create tests for each child variation, and you want to start them all at the same time. So you set them up in the same way and start them at the same time, and this way the price will change at the same time each day. So that avoids let's say you just have a color variation. You don't want one of them to go to $20 and one to go to $10. That's obviously going to wreck the test. You want them to change at the same time. But in the future, we're going to have it so that we can set it up and automate that, so you don't have to worry, and it'll just change the price for each one.
Cool. And then, of course, if you guys were to set that up and you just want to make sure that it's running correctly, you, of course, can email us. We're more than happy to double check it, make sure everything's running well there. Davis asked, so if he's using Splitly, does he need to worry about timing the changes, or does Splitly handle it?
Yeah, exactly. I was just reading a comment there from Jonathan Newman. Kind of hard to change listings at 3 a.m. suggestions. Exactly. I mean, this is where Splitly comes in. It does it for you, so you don't need to do the changes yourself. Honestly, we say you can go into this yourself. I don't think most people are going to have the patience and the time to do it. I think what most people have been doing up until now, before split testing software, is they will make a change. They'll leave it go for maybe a week, and then they'll change something else and leave that go for a week, and they'll compare week 1 to week 2, and they'll go, oh, well, this one, week 2 did better than week 1. That's the winner. Case closed. And that's just not true. That was just luck. If you don't change anything and you just watch your data, it's going up and down all the time. So you really can't do it that way. If you just to think about it, if you were to do that over a year, oh, well, I'll just run one thing for 6 months, then another for 6 months, everyone knows that's going to have a completely different result, and it's got to have nothing to do with what the change was that you made. So it has to be on a daily basis.
Yeah. So the short answer to that is, right, if you're using Splitly, you don't have to worry about any of that. You go in, you set up your test, you come back in a week or 2 weeks to check the results, and that's it. So what we were talking about earlier about manually changing it all, that would be if you want to do it the manual free way. We like, when we do these webinars, we like to give away lots of valuable content, even if you don't buy anything. So, that's why we're more than happy to tell you how to do it the manual way. And then, of course, since that is a pretty big hassle, and since that is why Splitly was born, tongue twister, we're also showing you that method as well. All right.
Okay, yeah. Question from Matt. I'll answer this one. When you make the variation to the listing, will you be creating a new listing to run aside the constant listing, or simply making small changes? We're making the changes that you set up in Splitly. We're then we're using Amazon's API to apply those changes every day at midnight. We're updating your listing. So we're not creating anything new on Amazon. It's just updating like you would do yourself by manually going in and making the changes.
And the reason we're not setting up a new listing is because, that'd be against Amazon's terms of service to have the same product with 2 different listings. And B, it would be very difficult to kind of rank these alongside of each other. You would have to try to get the same amount of reviews for the other listing. That wouldn't really work out. So it's the same listing. We're just making the changes every 24 hours, then comparing those results after a few weeks and saying, okay, which variant here, works better, which one makes you more sales and makes you more money, and so forth. So to add on to that, Nathan is asking Andy, what is a reasonable amount of time to see statistically significant results? Is it days or weeks or what?
Yeah, so we set a minimum of 2 weeks, and that's to get the each day of the week per variant. So if you had 3 variants, if you were going to do that, then it would be 21 days. But that is the absolute minimum. And most tests are going to run longer than that. It depends on two things. It depends on how much data you're getting, and also, and this is very important, how different your variations are. So if you make, some people, for example, I have seen some people just change the order of one of their bullets. They'll change bullet 2 to be bullet 3 and bullet 3 to be bullet 2, and they'll start their test. And I know what's going to happen. It's going to be running a very long time before they're going to see anything from that, because the change is so small. It's hard to spot that change in amongst all the data. So there are the two factors: how you want to make a significant change, and you want to have enough data. So if you have a lot of patience and you don't really mind, then you can test more smaller things like that guy was doing there with the bullet change. If he doesn't mind running it for 2 months or 3 months, then that's okay. But generally, people are not going to want to run a test that long, so you want to make your changes more significant.
And this is why we recommend those high impact changes, right? So, changing something like your main image or changing something like your price, this is something you're going to see good results for in a short amount of time. So, these are the types of things, that can increase your profits by 10, 20, 30% or whatever, as opposed to small tweaks that might do like 0.5%. So it's definitely easiest and best, to grab the low hanging fruit first.
Yeah, and I'll just finally clarify this one from Goldie. What do you need to do at midnight? Nothing if you're using Splitly. You don't have to do anything. So once you set up your test, it will take care of it. And that's it. You can sleep tight. And in fact, most people will obviously want to come back and check to see how their test is going. But we will send you an email if there's anything wrong or if the test finishes. We will keep you posted as to what's going on with your test. Do you work with Seller Cloud or P-Spot? I'm not. Are you familiar with these, Greg?
I believe these are a type of management software for Amazon sellers. The best thing to do would just be to shoot us an email real quick after this webinar. We can look in it real quick, look into it a little bit more. But short answer there, if they're just using your API to do kind of like order management and so forth, then no, it wouldn't interfere with it. If they're also trying to do repricing or something like that, then it is possible that they would interfere with each other. But yeah, we would have to look into that one a little bit more if that didn't answer the question, Matt. Katir is asking about running 2 tests on the same day.
Yeah, you can run 2 tests on 2 different products on the same day, but you can't run 2 tests on the same product, because what would be happening then is you'd be one of your tests would be overwriting the changes made by the other one. So it's just not possible to run 2 tests at the same time. If that answers the question, I think.
Yeah, and again, just because I think there's always a point of confusion, the data that we get from Amazon is a 24-hour basis that's ending at midnight. So that is why that's when your changes need to take place. And you're not running multiple tests during that time or changing times besides that, because then we just don't have the data to know, okay, is that what improved it or so forth. Andy, I think Nathan wants to know, what are some other good things to change? He asked about the significance in changing the order of the bullets, changes in the sales copy, changes in the titles. Of those, from your experience, have you seen some are higher impact, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, titles are definitely a popular choice and high impact. Again, I just have to stress that if you can test this yourself in Seller Central, if you can't update your title yourself, if you go into Seller Central and you can't change your title, and I don't know why Amazon does this, maybe I'm not sure what it is, but some people just have a problem with doing this, then you won't be able to do a split test on your title. So that does affect some people, but it is definitely a good one if you can get it going. Yeah, change your copy can be great, right? You can change things like, what type of guarantee you give, or sort of what sort of keyword stuffing you're doing. Definitely changing up your copy is going to have much more of a result than just changing the order of it. Right? If you just change the order of your bullets, it's not, generally speaking, that's not going to have a huge impact.
Yeah, I'll just kind of add to that with things like the description and the sales copy, some things that would have probably a larger change would be to like add the HTML formatting, make it really look really nice, add extra keywords in there and so forth. If you're just swapping out like a few little words in there, these probably aren't going to be changes to make enough impact. And then I'd say the only thing with the order of the bullets that I've kind of seen is you can try, if you have a main selling point or differentiating factor, you can try putting that at the top bullet point or the bottom bullet point. It seems like those are the two that like get seen or read by the customers most. So that's something you could try. Or if you don't have in there, there's like a money back guarantee, which as sellers we all know is kind of silly because all Amazon products have a money back guarantee. You can try putting that in and so forth.
Okay, yeah. What is the biggest increase in sales you have ever seen on Splitly users? I don't actually have an answer off the top of my head. I've seen many listings, right? I've seen many people's tests, but I haven't gone through the database looking for the best test. But it's important to also notice that once you get your test results and you what the test results will tell you is which variant was better, but it's not telling you exactly by how much this one will beat that one forever into the future, because it's using the fact that one was better than the other to determine how likely it is to be better than the other. I think that's kind of convoluted, if that makes sense. So, do you understand what I just said there, Greg?
I'm picking up on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain it.
Sure. And Remy, I think the short answer to this is, to kind of add on to this is, what Andy was saying is not all changes or variations are actually going to increase in result in an increase in sales. Some do a little bit worse, but again, these are good things to check to know. The vast majority we do make improvements, and sometimes pretty huge improvements. Like we're saying, especially the price tests and especially the main image tests. Maybe it only increase your sales by 5 or 10%, but when you actually put out the numbers, it's like, whoa! Now I'm making extra $500 or an extra $1,000 a month. That's pretty crazy. That a test that took me 5 minutes to set up, it cost me $50 a month. Now I'm making $1,000 extra or whatever. So it is something that if you aren't split testing, you're definitely leaving money on the table. It's something that everyone needs to be doing, whether you do it the old-fashioned manual slow way, or if you're using Splitly or so forth. Because as Amazon sellers, there's only so much we can do on their platform to improve our sales. There's only so much we can change on our listings. This isn't like our own e-commerce store where it's really beneficial to like try to drive outside traffic and so forth. So this is one of those things that you can really increase your sales, really increase your traffic and so forth without spending much more money. It's not like you have to spend an extra thousands of dollars each month on PPC. These are just small changes you can make, which is really cool. Yeah, and Remy, go ahead.
Go on. I was just going to add that once you're finished any test that you run, you should just immediately start running another test. For example, if you run a price test and you test a product for $14 and $16, and you say, oh well, $16 won. Well, then the next thing to do is to try one at 15 and 17, and you should keep on testing and keep on going until you've got your listing as optimized as possible, especially conversion rate, because if you increase your conversion rate even by a few percent, oh well, that means you just multiply that by your number of sales and you say, oh, I made this much money. But it's actually more than that, because if you increase your conversion rate, Amazon likes you more, and Amazon's going to boost up your rankings, your search rankings. So it has that added benefit. So conversion rate is really, really important on Amazon to get as optimized as possible.
Andy, I heard this saying the other day that I really like. It's my new, it should be the new, the slogan of Splitly, but a day without testing is a day wasted.
Very good. Sounds good to me.
It's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Are you familiar with Amazon Vendor Central, Andy, and if that could interfere with the split lead changes?
I'm not 100% sure what that is exactly.
Yeah,
Amazon,
so
most of our, go on.
I can kind of chime in here. Amazon Vendor Central or Vendor Express is when you actually sell your product to Amazon as opposed to fulfilling it by FBA. Um,
Got it.
I'm not quite sure if we've split tested many of those listings before. I think as
I
a,
can answer this.
sure, okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we only had one customer with this issue before. Essentially, once you do this method, you give your product to Amazon, they control your listing, and you won't be able to just update it at ease. So it's not the same as fulfilled by merchant or fulfilled by Amazon. It's a lot of control is given over to Amazon themselves.
And I think just to add on to that, as a general rule of thumb, if you can change your own listing in Seller Central, if you could go in there right now and change it, then Splitly will most likely work in something, unless something really funny is going on. I do remember once I elected one of my products for Vendor Express just because I wanted to kind of experience the program. And I know now, as of today, I can still make changes on that, but I don't know if they limit the changes or so forth. But the cool thing is you can always just, if you're not sure, you can either try changing yourself. You can sign up for a free trial of Splitly. You'll get an email notification if for some reason that changes can't be made. And then, of course, you don't have to pay for that if that, that particular test can't be run on it. Yeah, it looks like we're starting to kind of come to an end. If you guys have any more last questions, we'll take a few more questions. We usually like to keep the webinars to an hour or less. So you want to take Nathan's question, Andy?
Yep. Yeah. Can you explain what the concurrent test is? Yeah, this is in our pricing plan. So it just means how many tests you can have running at the same time. So you can create lots of tests, but until you start them, until you let them begin, they're not considered running. So that's just a limit on how many tests you can have running at the same time.
And then just to clarify that as a little even further, so we'd be talking about concurrent tests on separate products. So again, we're not running multiple tests on one product at the same time. So, I'm not changing my main image and my price on the same product on the same day. So this would be if you are selling 5 different products on Amazon or 10 different products on Amazon, we'd strongly recommend you run split tests on all of those at the same time. Because like we said, a day without testing is a day wasted. So, on one, you can be changing the price. On a totally different product, try changing the image, try changing your sales copy on the third one, and so forth. So, yeah, and of course, Splitly will update all those automatically for you. So, all right. And then for those of you, I'm sure there's a sharp bunch and you already picked up on that, but if you're interested in pricing or finding out more, that is the website. It's just splitly.com. We have one question from my buddy Brian here. He said, did you find the 0.95 or 0.99 converts better? Brian, short answer is this something that I'm still testing right now. So I have a few tests going. I have 97, 98, and 99. And I'll let you know. Maybe follow up with me in a few weeks, and I'll tell you for sure. Do you want to clarify for Nathan, Andy?
Yeah. So each ASIN is a product, and each ASIN can have a test on it. So the number of ASINs that you could run. Exactly, yeah. So the number of tests you could run for the base plan would be 3. 3 ASINs you can test.
All right. Yeah, and I think that would kind of wrap it up here. So if you want to find out more, splitly.com. We're pretty active in the blog there. We've posted a bunch of good content there. We can find out more about split testing, what we found works, what we found doesn't work. Feel free to sign up for a free trial if you'd like to test it out. You can run a test for 10 days for totally free. See if you like it, see if it works for you, and so forth. I think you're going to find that you'll be pretty amazed with it. And yeah, I can't really stress enough that even if you do it the old school manual way or use Splitly, that You really should be split testing your listings, and um, figuring out what's selling better. Like we said, just these small incremental changes, a few percentage points and a few percentage points there and here, they add up to make a lot of different, like a big difference. Like, improving a product that sells $1,000 a month by 10%, that's an extra $100 a month. And that would probably be on the lower end. So, yeah, I definitely recommend it to anyone. And then just because I saw this question out of the corner of my eye, one
Yes.
last one. Andy, does it work for the European marketplaces?
Yeah, we're working on it. So, I mean, it's just a matter of making sure that all the bugs are ironed out and stuff like that when you expand to a different system. So, yeah, it's in the pipeline though. We're going to get that one out too.
So yeah, if you're listening to this in the future, go ahead and check out splitly.com to see. We'll more than likely have um, compatibility for the EU market. Then, as of today, let's see, it's the last day in June. It only works for the US store. So yeah, just check back soon. And yeah, thanks for joining me, Andy. I had fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
And thank you everyone else for joining us. We hope to see more of you soon. Take care.